offline.
Listen, I don't mean to toot my own horn, but ooh, we got it looking good. Listen, I was feeling it. Apparently by the Discord messages, you were feeling it. It's time for some more Lotus precons, so I thought I'll give you guys a mega package of. So today we've got 4 extremely powerful decks that all come in around $45, the same price as a precon, that you might want to pick up instead of a precon or instead of spending your next $45. Whether that be on magic cards or necessities to survive. I don't know how addicted to this game you are. From Boros equipments to copying powerful creatures and ignoring basic rules of the game, today's decks cover a wide range, and if you'd like to find each one of them, we've got timestamps down below as well as full deck list links down in the description. So make sure to subscribe, like, maybe pass me a buck on Patreon. Our first deck coming in at $44.73 are actually 2 partner commanders, the first being Rograkh, son of Rograkh, being a 0-drop, 0/1 first strike, menace, trample partner, who's partnered with our boy, Ardenn, Intrepid Archaeologist, for 2 and a white, being a 2/2. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may attach any number of auras and equipments you control to target permanent or player. So a free commander and then free equip cost, right off the bat, doing basic game actions for free, gonna be pretty strong. This deck aims to play Rograkh and Ardenn as quick as possible, and then play auras and equipments, and throw them all onto Rograkh or other powerful creatures that we will talk about. And yeah, you're taking a big piece of why equipment decks are kind of bad most of the time. You actually need a body to throw equipments onto, and you need to pay equip cost. This deck gives you a free body with a ton of keywords and free equip cost. Starting things off with our budget equipment options for this list, we've got Golem Skin Gauntlets being a 1-drop equipment that equips for 2, gives equipped creature +1/+0 for each equipment on it. We've also got really bad equipments that are only good in this deck, like Great Axe being a 1-drop equipment that gives +4/+0 but equips for 5. But since we can throw as many equipments or auras onto something as we want for free in this deck, this becomes really good. Hero's Blade being a 2-drop equipment, equips for 4, equipped creature gets +3/+2, and when a legendary creature you control enters, you may attach Hero's Blade. So drop Hero Blade, play Rograkh for free. You got a 3/2, trample, haste, menace, whatever it has. Chainsaw's a great option, being 1 and a red for an equipment that equips for 3. When it enters, it deals 3 damage to target creature, and whenever 1 or more creatures dies, put a rev counter on it, and equipped creature gets +X/+0 equal to the number of rev counters on it. Fire Shrieker is a 3-drop equipment that equips for 2 that gives double strike. Wrecking Ball Arm is a 2-drop equipment that equips to legendaries for 3 or equips normally to non-legendaries for 7 and turns the equipped creature into a 7/7 that can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. So in this deck, it's a 2-drop equip for free, make that thing a 7/7 that can't be blocked by 2 or less. Cloudsteel Curin is a cool option for prolonging games, being 2 and a white for a 3/2 flying. Equipped creature has flying and you can't lose the game and your opponents can't win the game. Reconfigure, which means you can attach it to something for 5, but since it's an equipment, Ardenn will go ahead and attach it for free. Bloodforged Battle Axe is one that could get seriously out of hand in this list, being a 1-drop equipment that equips for 2, equipped creature gets +2/+0. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, create a token that's a copy of Bloodforged Battle Axe. Mask of Memory, a 2-drop equipment that equips for 1. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage, you may draw 2 cards and discard 1. And finally, Masterwork of Ingenuity, being a 1-drop artifact equipment that enters as a copy of another equipment. Okay, I'm back. I got these little cinnamon sugar oyster cracker things. I'm reinvigorated. Listen, I'm gonna be frank with you. We run like 1 aura and it's all that glitters. This is an equipment deck. I might have misspoke. So on top of those equipments, we've also got some ways to tutor those equipments up, including Heliod's Pilgrim, Reckless Handling, and Relic Seeker. So to pair with all these equipments and ways to tutor up equipments, we've got a ton of equipment synergy, including Ironclad Slayer being a 2 and a white 3/2 that when it enters, you can return an aura or equipment from your graveyard to your hand, so some pretty good equipment recursion, never hurt anybody. We've also got Cole the Forge Master being a white and a red 2/2. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, if it was enchanted or equipped, return it to its owner's hand, and creature tokens you control that are enchanted or equipped get +1/+1. Don't really care about the second part. First part, very good. Just bounce our commander that costs 0 back to our hand if it were to die, if it had equipments on it, sure. Rayev Master Smith being a red and a white 2/2. Whenever a creature you control that's enchanted or equipped attacks, that creature gains double strike until end of turn. Would we want that for our free commander that's getting a ton of free equipments? Armory Paladin, another banger, being a 1 red white 3/3. Trample, when you cast an aura or equipment spell, exile the top card of your library, and you may play that spell until the end of your next turn. Impulse draw for playing equipments? Sure. From Final Fantasy, Furion Wild Rose Warrior is fantastic in this list. Being a 2 and a red 3/3, equip creatures you control have haste, sure. And whenever a non-token equipment you control enters, create a token that's a copy of it, except it has this equipment's equipped cost is 2, and then sacrifice that token at the end of the upkeep. Yeah, in our deck that equip cost is 0, but we'll take little bonuses to each equipment we play. Sure, thanks. Gilgamesh Master at Arms is another Final Fantasy banger for this list, being a 4 and 2 red 6/6. When it enters or attacks, look at the top 6 of your library. You may put any number of equipment cards from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. When you put one or more equipments onto the battlefield this way, you may attach one of them to a samurai you control. Samurai thing, don't really care. Ton of equipments into play for free? Yeah. Iron Soul Enforcer is a 4 and a white 4/4 artifact creature. Whenever Iron Soul Enforcer or a commander you control attacks alone, return target artifact from your graveyard into play. This card really highlights why having a free commander is very good. You just drop this. Oh, I'll just go ahead and play Rograkh Swing, get this huge equipment from my graveyard back into play for free. The list also runs Akiri Fearless Voyager, being a 1, a red, and a white 3/3. Whenever you attack a player with one or more equipped creatures, draw a card. We will definitely take that. It's also got 1 white. You can attach an equipment to something for free. Our commander's kind of already got that, but swinging at 3 different players with equipped creatures and getting 3 pieces of card draw off this. Broodar Battlehammer is an absolute unit in this list. 2, a red, and a white for a 5/3. Each creature you control gets +2/+0 for each equipment attached to it, and you may pay 0 rather than play the equip cost of the first equipment you attach during a turn. Yeah, the second ability, whatever, our commander Ardenn's going to be probably doing that better. Giving a creature 2/0 for each equipment? Passively. And finally, for our equipment synergy, we've got Pure Steel Paladin, being a 2 white 2/2. When an equipment enters under your control, draw a card, and equipments you control cost 0 to equip if you control 3 or more artifacts. Pretty much a second Ardenn in the deck that also just draws us a ton of cards. Now, outside of the basic game plan of playing our commanders, equipping as many equipments as we can onto Rograkh, making him a huge unit, throwing him at people, using the free equip cost and the free commander to just generate a ton of value, we also run plenty of creatures that are also good to throw equipments on, because if people start hyper-focusing Rograkh or permanently remove him with something like Oubliette, you might want to have some backup options. So creatures like Adelburn Steiner, being a 1 and a white 2/1 lifelink that gets 1/1 for each equipment you control. That's going to be a great creature to start throwing equipments on. Even if you don't, it's going to get big. Champion of the Flame, being a 1 and a red 1/1 trample that gets +2/+2 for each aura and equipment on it. Goblin Cavalier, being very similar, a 1-drop 1/1 trample, gets 2/0 for each equipment on it. Now, you might think Loyal Apprentice is a weird one in this category, but I don't think so. Being a 1 and a red 2/1 with haste, that makes us a 1/1 Thopter with flying at the beginning of our combat if we control our commander, and since we have a free commander, Loyal Apprentice is going to be turned on pretty easily, and making 1/1 flyers, those are pretty good to throw equipments on if you're in a pinch. Valduk, Keeper of the Flame, is a 2 and a red 3/2 that makes us a 3/1 with haste at the beginning of combat on our turn for each equipment that's on it. Sure, we have to sack him at the end of turn. That's a lot of fucking power on this dude, so especially when our other commander Ardenn lets us throw a ton of equipments on Valduk for free. Danitha, Benalia's Hope, is another great option to throw all your equipments onto, being a 4 and a white 4/4 first strike vigilance lifelink. When it enters the battlefield, you may put an aura or equipment card from your hand or graveyard onto the battlefield attached to Danitha. Swiftblade Vindicator is another stat checker that's great to throw your equipments onto, being a red and a white 1/1 double strike vigilance trample. Yeah, get enough equipments on this, take some people out. And then finally, for creatures to throw your equipment on other than our commanders, we've got Danitha Capetian Paragon, being a 2 and a white 2/2 first strike vigilance lifelink. Aura and equipment spells cost 1 less to cast. And just like that, you got a deck that's looking like me on a date. It's shitting, it's pooping. Here's a look at the deck's card draw, the deck's mana ramp, the deck's removal, and the deck's board interaction, along with the mana base and 3 test opening hands. If you want to take a more in-depth look at this deck, there's a link to it down below in the description. With that, let's move on to power for a precon deck number 2. Now, you need to hear me out on this next one, alright? Because it involves the day-night mechanic, alright? But I think I can convince you of its power. The same guy that convinced his brother that Barney's a cognito hazard. I need help. How am I going to sell you on the day-night mechanic? We don't use that part of the card. So, power for a precon deck number 2 comes in at $49.23 and is based around Vadrik Astral Archmage. Being a 1, a blue, and a red for a 1/2, if it's neither day nor night, it becomes day as Vadrik enters the battlefield. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost X less to cast, where X is Vadrik's power. And whenever day becomes night or night becomes day, put a 1/1 counter on Vadrik. Now, how does day and night work? Just so you can know that in case. How does day? Day turns to night if the active player casts no spells on their turn, changing the next untap step. Night to day if the active player casts 2 or more spells on their turn. So it's literally never going to turn night from day because people rarely don't cast a spell. But the fact that we can get an instant and sorcery cost reduction equal to our commander's power on a 3-drop, yeah, that's probably not extraordinarily manipulatable and extremely powerful at all. This deck's a really easy one. Step 1, play and protect our commander, okay? If they try to deal with it, we protect it with protection spells or counter spells. Easy enough. Step number 2, buff the shit out of our commander to make it massive. Step number 3, use our massive commander to reduce the cost of our instants and sorceries by a shit ton and play 10, 11, 12 drop instants and sorceries for 1, 2, 3 mana. Biggest and most important part of this deck, the buffs. How are we going to make our commander bigger? We've got Adeliz the Cinderwind being a 1, a red, and a blue for a 2/2 flying haste whenever we cast an instant or sorcery. Wizards we control get +1/+1, and wouldn't you look at that, our commander's a wizard, so casting instants and sorceries makes instants and sorceries cost less that turn, essentially. Pretty good. Straight up combat tricks like Antagonize are really good in this deck, being 1 and a red, instant, give a creature +4/+3. Balmor, Battle Mage Captain's great, being a blue and a red for a 1/3, flying whenever we cast an instant or sorcery. Creatures we control get +1/+0 and trample. Downhill Charge provides a +X/+0 equal to the number of mountains we control for 3 mana. Hero's Blade, we actually talked about in our last deck, being a 2-drop equipment that gives +3/+2 and equips 2 legendaries when you play them. Levan, Cultist of Tiamat, being a 2 and a red 1/3 that when you cast a non-creature spell, target creature gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is that spell's mana value, becomes insane in this deck because you just play a 3-drop instant or sorcery, our commander gets +3/+0, all your instants and sorceries for the rest of the turn cost 4 less now. Oh, okay, I'll go ahead and drop this 8-drop sorcery for 4 then. Levan will go ahead and still dish out a +8/+0 though. Lunar Frenzy will give a +X/+0 for X and a red, making our commander as big as we have mana. Magic Damper is some good protection that also provides a buff, being a 1 blue instant that provides +1/+1 and hexproof until end of turn. Same thing goes for Octopus Form. Reckless Charge is a 1 red sorcery that gives +3/+0 and haste and has flashback for 2 and a red, so why not have that? Seething Anger can be absolutely disgusting in this deck, being a red for a sorcery with buyback 3. Target creature gets +3/+0 until end of turn. And if I'm not mistaken, cost reduction affects stuff like buyback, because buyback is an additional cost. So if we can reduce the cost enough, Seething Anger can just be 1 red to cast instants and sorceries over and over again. And as we've seen with cards like Adeliz or Balmor being able to repeatedly cast spells over and over again, it's going to be pretty good. Shore Up is another form of protection that gives 1/1 and hexproof until end of turn. Stealth Mission gives 2 1/1 counters as well as unblockable until end of turn, so you could potentially smoke someone with your commander, which I think is kind of cool. Water Wings can turn a creature into a 4/4 until end of turn, so if we already have enough like counters and buffs on our commander, we can turn it into a 4/4. Even if we don't have buffs, paying 2 mana to get a 4 mana cost reduction on your instants and sorceries until end of turn. Similar to Water Wings, Zafrir Shapecraft is the same thing, turns something into a 4/3, but it also draws us a card, so bonus. Now, if you want a serious buff in this deck, Fist of Flame is disgusting. 1 and a red instant, draw a card. Until end of turn, target creature gets 1/0 and trample equal to the number of cards you drew. Yeah, I don't know, I feel like in this deck, we could probably make this be absolutely disgusting. Another basic combat trick is Invigorated Rampage, which I think is great. 1 and a red instant, choose 1, target creature gets 4/0 and trample until end of turn, or 2 target creatures get +2/+0 and trample until end of turn. In this deck, we're going to be doing the 4/0, but again, 2 mana to make your instants and sorceries cost 5+ less until end of turn. If you want a combat trick with a little built-in card draw, we've got Blazing Crescendo being a 1 and a red +3/+1 until end of turn that also lets you exile the top card and play it until the end of your next turn, so not even until the end of this turn. You get a whole rotation. Unleash Fury could absolutely win you a game in this deck, being 1 and a red to double the power of something until end of turn. So your commander's sitting at 6, 7, 8 power. It's now sitting at 16 power. Now, on top of the buff spells that also provide protection, we've got some counter spells in the deck to help protect our commander. We run Negate, we run Unsubstantiate, Dispel, Spell Pierce, and Rewind. So we've got a pretty good package for protecting our commander. So now that we have our commander in play, we have our commander big, what kind of big spells are we going to be casting on a $45 budget? Turns out pretty good ones. I really like Explosive Welcome being a 7 in a red instant that deals 5 damage to any target, 3 damage to another target, and adds you 3 red mana, as in this deck, casting this for 1 red is not very difficult at all. And then dishing out 8 damage for 1 red that then nets you 2 red. Nuts. Sorcerer Schemes is another great one, being 3 in a red sorcery, return target instant or sorcery from your graveyard or exiled card with flashback you own to your hand and add a red, and it has flashback for 4 in a red. Just in this deck, this is going to be a 1 red. Recast any of your other big stuff. Pretty much read this card as a copy of any other big thing in your deck to just cast a second time. Speaking of copy a big thing to cast a second time, Galvanic Iteration being a blue and a red instant that copies the next spell you cast, and then it also has flashback, is going to be good in this deck because copying any of these spells is disgusting. We've also got Hit the Motherload, being 4 and 3 red for a sorcery. Discover 10. If the discovered card's mana value is less than 10, create a number of tapped treasure tokens equal to the difference. Again, 3 red for this, sure. Pyretic Charge is a banger in this list, being 4 in a red sorcery. Discard your hand, draw 4 cards, then for each card discarded this way, creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. Little 4 card, 5 card grip that you don't like for Vadriks in this situation. You want to pop off with Vadriks more this turn. Play a Pyretic Charge for probably 1 red. Ditch your other 4 cards. Draw 4. Give all your creatures +4/+0. Oh, look at that. Vadrik gets a +4/+0 and I have a new hand of cards. Disgusting. I don't know how many times I have to say disgusting, but I'm going to keep doing it. Disgust. Drown in Dreams is a great mana sink for Vadrik, being a X, a 2, and a blue instant that has target player draw X cards or mill twice X cards. And yes, the cost reduction from Vadrix affects the X cost in this, making this one of the best win cons in the deck. For sure, have one opponent draw their whole deck out and have another opponent mill their whole deck out. Sounds good. Same as Sorcerer Schemes, think of Recoup as just a second copy of any of the big spells we have in our deck. Volcanic Visions, think of it similarly, except this will also deal the damage equal to the CMC of the thing we return to target opponent and everything they control, which is Electro Dominance is another great mana sink, being an X and 2 red instant that deals X damage to any target, and then you can cast a spell that costs X or less out of your hand for free. Are you kidding me? It might be one of the best cards in the list, honestly. Hell to Pay is just a fireball that targets creatures and gives you treasure tokens for the damage you've done in excess. How good is this one when we already have so much cost reduction? I don't know, but drowning in riches while your opponent dies isn't the worst time. We've also got Explosive Singularity being a 10-drop, deal 10. We've also got Finale of Promise being an X and 2 red sorcery. You may cast up to 1 target instant and or sorcery card from your graveyard without paying its mana cost if the value is X or less. If a spell cast this way would be put into your graveyard, exile it. If X is 10 or more, you may copy each of the spells cast. Think of this as every spell in our deck except this one's especially gross. We've got Magma Opus, which I just think is a fun card, being 6, a blue and a red instant, deals 4 damage divided, taps 2 permanents, creates a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token, and draws you 2 cards. You can also pay 2 hybrid Is It to discard it and create a treasure. Think of this as a blue and a red to do all that. I think anybody would run that. Of course, we've got Mind's Desire because it's too much fun not to run in this list. 4 and 2 blue, sorcery, shuffle your library, exile the top card, cast it for free, Storm. In this deck, casting 7, 8, 9 different cards in a turn, not hard at all. And then Mind's Desiring after that, potentially a bunch of this big shit for free. Similarly, Elemental Eruption making a 4/4 for 6 and then having Storm in this deck is essentially 2 red to do that. Game Ender, absolutely busted in this list. And then finally, we've got Jaya's Immolating Inferno being X and 2 red for a legendary sorcery that deals X damage to each of 3 targets. So if you can get this X big enough with Vadrik, you could kill every opponent and win the game. And it really is that simple. This deck's an absolute unit. It's disgusting. I saw it played a couple times in my LGS when I first started going back and was shocked at how powerful its ability was. Wasn't really interested due to the day-night thing, but if you just kind of erase that off the card and forget it exists, very good. Might I even say bustedly good. And for under $45, give her a check out with the link in the description. And if you want to take a look at this deck's card draw, mana ramp, removal, board interaction, and land base, there you go. And here's a look at 3 test hands as well to see if you'd like to build it. Let's move on to Power for a Precon deck number 3. Do you like breaking the rules of Magic a little bit? Just a little? No judgment here. Everybody does a little. Yeah, you do a little. And let's be honest, sometimes when you play Magic, you like to just a little bit before you play. No judgment again, just a little bit before you play. Yeah, just a little bit before you play. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it does. Get this sort of a Power for a Precon deck number 3 con. is based around the Master Multiplied, being 4, a red and a black for a 4/3 Myriad, which means when it attacks, you get a token copy of it for each opponent you control. And you might say, Nick, why would I ever want that on my commander? Well, this commander also has the legend rule doesn't apply to creature tokens you control, so myriading on legendaries is now a thing. But even better than that, triggered abilities that cause us to sacrifice creatures or exile creature tokens we control don't do that. So we get to keep the Myriad tokens from Master, and those tokens have Myriad. You're gonna have Master Multiplied, dude. So outside of the commander itself being absolutely cracked, which it is, we have plenty of other ways to utilize not only its legend-breaking mechanic, not only its Myriad mechanic, but also its can't be sacrificed at the end of turn mechanic. This commander has so many different abilities that make the deck fun to build and also extremely powerful. Let's get into it. The first way we can utilize both the legend rule doesn't apply mechanic and the you don't have to sacrifice mechanic is token copy cards, because a lot of red cards that make token copies most of the time will have you sack those token copies at the end of turn, which we don't have to do anymore with our commander, and we could also target legendaries with, thanks to our commander. So a card like Hate Mirage, being a 3 and a red sorcery, choose up to 2 target creatures you don't control. For each of those creatures, create a token that's a copy of it that you exile at the beginning of the next end step. Oh, a 4 mana, get the 2 strongest things from 2 different people and keep them? Already you should probably see how busted this is. Calamity, Galloping Inferno, is 4 and 2 red, being a 4/6 haste. Whenever Calamity, Galloping Inferno attacks while saddled, choose a non-legendary creature that's saddled at this turn and create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of it. Sacrifice the token at the beginning of the next end step. Repeat this process once. So while not being able to hit legendaries, we get to keep the tokens. They don't get sacked. So we just get 2 free tokens of the 2 strongest non-legendary things we control? Sure. Echoing Assault's another great choice, being 4 and a red enchantment. Creature tokens you control have menace. Whenever you attack a player, choose target non-token creature that's attacking that player. Create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a 1/1. The token enters tapped and attacking, and you sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. Wrong. We do not. Want some more heat? How about Flame Rush Rider? 4 and a red, 3/3. When it attacks, create a token that's a copy of another target attacking creature that's tapped and attacking. Exile the token at the end of combat. Again, not us. Mirror Style Master is a 4 and 2 red, 3/3 with backup 1. Whenever this creature attacks, for each attacking modified creature you control, create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of it that you exile at the beginning of the next turn. And finally, for our copy kit, we've got Redoubled Stormsinger, being 2 and a red for a 3/3 first strike. Whenever this creature attacks, for each creature token you control that entered the battlefield this turn, create a tapped and attacking copy of that token. At the beginning of your next end step, sacrifice those tokens. For 3 mana, good grief is this good. Now, outside of copying our creatures, as our commander shows us, Myriad is incredibly good because we would no longer have to sacrifice the Myriad copies. So, creatures with Myriad, gonna be good. Genasi Enforcers, being a 1 and a red 1/3 with Myriad that you can pay 1 and a red to give creatures you control named Genasi Enforcers +1/+0 until end of turn. While not extremely powerful, will quickly flood the board. You gotta really think about this. You swing with this thing once, you get 2 more tokens, okay? Next rotation comes around, you swing with 3 tokens that are each making 2 more tokens. So that's 9 tokens you have now. And then the next rotation, you have 9 tokens, each making you 2 extra tokens. So you have 18 more tokens. You're at 27 tokens. And that applies to any creature with Myriad. It's insane. How about Null War Band? 5 and a red, 5/5. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each opponent who was dealt damage this turn, so this thing could realistically cost 3 mana. Menace and Myriad. Timat's Fanatics, 4 and a red, 4/3 haste, Myriad. Fearbolg Flutist, being a 4 and 2 red, 4/4. When it enters the battlefield, gain control of target creature you don't control until end of turn. Untap it. It gains Myriad until end of turn. This one is disgusting. It doesn't keep Myriad, but you just get to get 2 token copies of the strongest thing your opponent controls, as well as swing with the original and keep the copies? Sure, but I can tell you're still not sold on the Myriad. How about Dalek Squadron? 2 and a black, 3/3, Menace, Myriad. Oh, excuse me. I saved my best one for last. How about El Tural's Survivors? 3 and a red, 0/4, Trample, Myriad. When it attacks, it gets +X+0, where X is the number of lands defending player controls. Again, if you can manage to get any of these Myriad cards firing off, you should have the game. If your commander already alone just doesn't have the game. Now, another newer mechanic that interacts great with the Master Multiplied is Mobilize. The Mobilize mechanic will have a number next to it, and when a creature with Mobilize attacks, it creates that many 1/1 attacking red warriors that you have to, say it with me, sacrifice at the end of your turn. But with our commander, we get to just keep them. So cards like Nightblade Brigade, being 2 and a black, 1/3 Death Touch Mobilize, when this creature enters Surveil 1, can easily become an army in a can for 3 mana. Shock Brigade, being a 1 and a red, 1/3 Menace Mobilize 1. Zurgo's Vanguard, being a 2 and a red, star 3 Mobilize 1. Power equal to the number of creatures we control. And the best one of all, Avenger of the Fallen, being a 2 and a black, 2/4 Death Touch that mobilizes equal to the number of creatures in our graveyard. And we run a lot of creatures. Now, the copy effects, the myriad effects, the mobilize effect, all of these act as an army in the can when they're paired with the Master Multiplied, making this deck extremely strong. Now, if you want some other creatures to copy other than the Master Multiplied with some of our copying effects, I thought running a little kit of those was a good idea, so here are some suggestions. Copying something like Perforating Artist is extremely good, being a 1 and a black and a red 3/2 Death Touch. At the beginning of your end step, if you attacked this turn, each opponent loses 3 life unless they sacrifice a non-land permanent of their choice or discards a card. If you can manage to make a copy of this thing and it sticks around, imagine having 2 of these in play, 3 of these in play, 4 of these in play with our copy effects, because guess what? The Master Multiplied lets them stick around. So if we have a card like Mirror Style Master firing off, we can keep netting copies of this and slowly create these almost group sluggish board states, which pushes each opponent into a real rock and hard place situation, which I think is great. In a similar vein, Scytheclaw Raptor is a 2 and a red 4/3 that has whatever a player cast a spell. If it's not their turn, Scytheclaw Raptor deals 4 damage to them. Again, imagine having 2, 3, 4 of these in play. How do you feel about making token copies of something like Fleshback Marauder or Plaguecrafter to just force opponents to sack their boards, essentially, as we'll do it multiple times? Copying Woe Strider seems good, as we'll be netting a ton of 0/1 goats that we can then sack to scry and fix our draws. And again, having sack outlets for all these mobilized tokens, the clone copies, the myriad clone copies, I think that's useful. Mayhem Devil is actually nuts, in the same vein as Scytheclaw or Perforation Artist, being a 1, a black, and a red for a 3/3. Whenever a player sacrifices a permanent, this creature deals 1 damage to any target. Now, this might seem counterproductive because it's like, hey, we can't sack anything anymore. Why are we running this? Bunch of people sack stuff. Tons of land sack, tons of aristocrat decks are out there. Token decks love to sack. Go wide decks love to sack. There is a ton of decks sacking. Having multiples of these on the board, I think, is going to be pretty good in most pods. And finally, for more creatures you might want to copy, Fanatic of Mogus is a 3 and a red 4/2 that deals damage to each opponent equal to your devotion to red. So making copies of this thing over and over again, not only getting to keep your 4/2 copies thanks to the Master Multiplied, but also dealing a ton of damage with them. Now, if you're watching this specific deck and you're like, Nick, what about Encore? Encore's really good. You get to make token copies of creatures from the graveyard that get to attack that you have to exile at the end of the turn, but thanks to Master, you get to keep them. There's like no good Encore creatures. There's one, and it is in the deck, Rakshasa Debaser, being a 4 and 2 black 6/6. When it attacks, put target creature card from defending player's graveyard into play under your control, and it has Encore, meaning you can pay that and create a token for each opponent you control that you then have to sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step. In our deck, we get to keep it. This one's really good. All the other Encore stuck, but if you want to take a look at this deck's card draw, mana ramp, removal, board interaction, here you go, as well as the deck's mana base and a look at 3 test hands from the deck. There you go. Just like all the decks we're going to talk about today, if you want to take a more in-depth look at any of these, links down below. And with that, let's move on to the 4th and final power for a precon deck. Now, I know what you're saying. Where's my good old-fashioned Timmy deck at on this list? I got you. Our final power for a precon deck is based around the pride of the whole Clade, being a 10 and a green 2/15. That's right, 15 toughness. 15 tough, little man. Put that creature on my board. If that creature doesn't stay, I don't know what to say. My jungle love. Pride of the whole Clave, 10 and a green, 2/5 that cost X less to cast, where X is the total toughness of creatures you control, Defender, pay 2 and 2 blue. Until end of turn, target creature you control gets +1/+0, gains whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw cards equal to its toughness, and can attack as though it didn't have Defender. Yeah, if Arcades has taught us anything, Defender decks are very, very good. This is a really unique spin on it though, because instead of Defenders dealing damage equal to their toughness, which is kind of the flavor, I don't know, every other one wants to go with, this one lets you just draw a shit ton of cards for your walls connecting. Yeah, that's probably not going to be busted. So great place to start here. Let's look at all of our defenders. These are all of our things with big toughness. Most of them have defenders. Some of them don't. Get over it. So starting things off with Aegis Turtle being a 1 blue 0/5. So in this deck, this is a 1 blue, turn it into a 1/5 with our commander, smack someone and draw 5 cards. So Axebane Guardian is a 2 and a green 0/3 defender that adds mana equal to the number of creatures with defender we control. Kalorna Coral Tyrant is a 1 and a blue 0/8. So while it doesn't have defender, still works with our commander and will draw us 8 cards. So for 2 mana? Sure, man. Why not? Fear of Failed Test being a 4 and a blue 2/7. When it deals combat damage to a player, draw that many cards. So this one will draw you 9 cards when it connects. Fogbank being a 2-drop 0/2 defender flying, prevent all combat damage that will be dealt to it. Overgrown Zealot being a 1 and a green 0/4 that taps for mana. Moving on to Suspicious Bookcase being 2 colorless for a 0/4 defender that can make creatures unblockable. Towering Viewpoint being a 2-drop 0/4 that can give creatures flying. Walking Bulwark being a 0/3. Wall of Frost being a 0/7. Glacial Wall being a 0/7. Baloth Prime being a 4-drop 10/10 that enters with 6 stun counters on it. And whenever you sacrifice a land, create a 4/4 green beast creature token. Pay 4, sacrifice a land, you gain 4 life. This one's really good because on turn 4 you can cast it and then have your commander cost 1 green. Wall of Blossoms 0/4 draws you a card on ETB. Overgrown Battlement 0/4 that taps for mana equal to the number of walls you control. Vine Trellis being a 0/4 that taps for 1 green. Hover Barrier being a 0/6 defender flying. Cherix 2 and 2 blue 0/17. Sure, drawing 17 cards, we might be able to win a game from that, but sure, not convinced. How about a Tree of Redemption? 3 and a green 0/13 defender. Exchange your life total with this creature's toughness. Save you a bunch of the time. How about draw you 13 cards as well? Keep in mind all the while, none of your opponent's combat is getting through to us because we have so many walls, obviously. And then rounding out our quote-unquote defender package, we've got Bedrock Tortoise being a 0/6 that gives our creatures hexproof during our turn and also allows our creatures to assign combat damage equal to their toughness rather than their power, which, yeah, you could probably guess it, will win us a game. Now, obviously, with our commander and all of this huge toughness in play, we're going to run some stuff that just interacts and cares about big toughness. So a card like Tapestry Warden is fantastic, being 3 and a green, 3/4 vigilance. Each creature you control with toughness greater than its power assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. Each creature you control with toughness greater than its power station's permanence. What the f does that say? You can also have creatures like station permanence equal to their toughness. We really don't care about that part. Just another way to smack face with big defender. Tetsuko gives everything we control with power 1 or less unblockable, so walls can't be blocked. Again, will win us games. Tower Defense gives all of our creatures a +0/+5 until end of turn. Gossip's Talent is a class that costs 1 and a blue. On level 1, whenever a creature we control enters, we surveil 1. And at level 2, whenever you attack, target attacking creature with power 3 or less can't be blocked. Again, wall. And at level 3, whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may exile it and return it to the battlefield. Yeah, some of our walls have ETBs that might be useful. The level 1 and level 2, super useful. Of course, the deck runs Assault Formation being a 1 and a green enchantment. Each creature you control assigns combat damage equal to its toughness. Pay 1 green. Target creature with defender can attack as though it didn't. And 2 and a green, creatures you control get +0/+1. Everything we want in this deck, definite add. First card I added, I think, easily. Now, if you want to definitely bring home a game, we got Towering Titan being 4 and 2 green 0/0 that enters with X/1/1 counters on it, where X is the total toughness of other creatures you control. Sacrifice a creature with defender. All creatures gain trample until end of turn. Yeah, for $1, I thought, why not? A really cool new card from Dragons of Tarkir is Arbor Adherent, being 3 and a green 2/4, tap it for any color, or you can tap it to add X mana of any one color, where X is the greatest toughness among creatures you control. So you could easily turn 2 or turn 3 a 0/7 wall very easily, and then have a mana dork that taps for 7 fucking mana, which is nuts in this game. Now, on top of smacking face with all these massive creatures, drawing a ton of cards, getting a ton of value, you can definitely bring home games with cards like Ominous Seas, which gets counters whenever we draw a card, and every time it hits 8 counters, we create an 8/8. In this deck, we're going to be making a ton of 8/8s with this thing. Of course, something like Psychosis Crawler, causing opponents to lose when we draw a card, is going to end the game, or something like Laboratory Maniac, causing us to win the game when our deck has 0 cards in it. Realistically, I think you're probably going to deck yourself quite a bit in this list if you're not already winning from the value. So this seems pretty good in here. And if you really want to take out an opponent, we've got Sphinx's Tutelage into Fairy's Tutelage, turning every single card draw we get into 2 pieces of mill for the opponent. So yeah, if we deck ourselves, they should be long gone by that point. And there you have it. Here's a look at the card draw, mana ramp, removal, as well as the board interaction and the land base. Here's a look at 3 test openers to see if this is a deck you'd be interested in. Again, like all the other decks, you can check out the links for a more in-depth look at these decks down below in the description. And yeah, hope you liked the video. Maybe like, maybe subscribe, maybe hit the bell, become a $1 patron or YouTube member because it helps me out a ton. It also lets you submit your decks for Friday Night Deck Reviews because we do Friday Night Deck Reviews every Friday. Oh, did I forget to mention that part? So if any of that sounds fun, show a little support. We always love that. We're working on a brand new Scryfall search optimization tool. We have the open beta right now in the Discord. So if you want to join the Discord, it's free and you can test out that tool. So I will see you guys on Friday for some deck reviews and our upload, and y'all stay out of trouble. Peace.